Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how exactly to maximize the damage of your Grace. And in this video, let's first things first start off with the combat mechanics and the nuances between this character. On a surface glance, she's actually a very simple character with not too much nitty-gritty and complications, but I'll explain a bit something that is not often thought about. But let's start off things first with the easiest and most obvious thing about Grace, which is these batteries right below her icon over here. What this is basically her zap counter, and how do you use the zap counter is basically you press her E here, the skill. If you're using a mobile, it's the X special attack or special attack. So you throw all the bombs and then you're able to use all of your gauges as well. How do you use these gauges is you actually just need to basic attack or dash attack, which is using your dash, which is this icon here if you're playing on mobile, followed by your basic attack skill. So 1, 2, and then you are able to build the stacks. Again, throw to remove stacks, 1, 2 to build some charges, basic attack to gain some charges, and another basic attack to gain another charge. So you basically need 3 basic attacks to get the full charge. So it's just 1, 2, 3 and zappy, 1, 2, 3 and zappy. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward to generate. What these charges do, if any of you who are wondering why is it important, can you use it if it's half gauge and stuff like that. Importantly, what this charge does is in the core passive part, you want to get the max stacks. Once you reach the max stacks, when you use EX special attack, her bombs that she tosses on the enemies, you basically increase the amount of electric anomaly you're building up by almost 100% plus at just core skill 4. So this one goes up to like 100% plus at like once you have everything maxed out at core skill level 7 as well. So very important. A huge part of Grace kit, if you're wondering why your Grace is not building up electric anomaly fast enough, probably because you're not getting enough stacks and using them appropriately as well. So that is the main key part about Grace kit that is very different from the rest of the characters. Now, something that is not often talked about is Grace as a character's movement. Now, if you go to any other character and you basic attack, notice that their tendency is to move towards characters. Grace, on the other hand, if we rotate into Grace, her basic attack string actually puts her in the exact same spot that she was when she completed the rotation. And if you combo this with an E, you actually get a net backwards movement, which helps you reposition very well. So this is something that is quite underrated of Grace, especially when you're in boss fights. You can even move while you're basic attacking. So you can reposition, dodge attacks, move back from enemies, like quick dodge counter, and your net movement is actually in the direction that you want while doing your combo string. A lot of the other characters cannot do this, so they are subjected to enemy attacks in between and stuff like that. So that is something that is pretty interesting to know about Grace in terms of her mobility and being used as a temporary on-field character, especially if you're repositioning. If let's say the boss has AoE attacks, you can just do a quick string. All you just need to do is hold the direction of your arrow key. So for example, on mobile, just hold the left button and you'll move in the left direction when you're using Grace. Hold the right button and you'll move towards the right when you're basic attack stringing with Grace. And that is something quite unique about this particular character. Usually most ranged characters is like that, I think for Rena and Grace especially so. So now that we have touched on the easy part about Grace as a character, let's talk a little bit about the gear, because I'm sure a lot of you might be wondering what exactly is best to put on Grace. I'll give you a few options that you can play about depending on what stage of the game that you're at. If you are looking for ideal purposes, I think that going for Freedom Blues 4-piece is the ideal, which gives you a lot of anomaly proficiency, which is exactly what she needs. And EX special attack hits the enemy with the bombs that she throws, the E skill, reduce the target's anomaly build up rest to electric by 20% for 8 seconds, which is very nice. It stacks on with the other stuff like her increased electric build up on the enemy. So very quickly she can build up electric shock on the enemy as well. So I think that Freedom Blues, without a doubt, is probably the best in slot for her. The question then becomes, which 2-piece do you want to run? There are some options. If you're very early into the game, Woodpecker Electro, which is one of the free sets that you get, I think, by just completing some of the trial number 7, if I'm not wrong, like the main quest line, you do those stuff, you can get 1 S-tier, S-rank sets eventually completely for free. 2-piece crit rate is not too bad. Hand ratio is also okay. You don't get this for free, I think. Other than that, I think the interesting one, attack percentage is okay. You don't get it for free either. Energy regen is pretty good. So energy regen and crit probably ranks around the same. The one that I actually like more is electric damage bonus, thunder metal right here. Just having the 2% here in the main stat is good enough because most of her damage from the bombs that she throws, her ultimate, her entry into the field, mostly uses the same thing, which is electric damage. For the 4-piece, on the other hand, I don't think this is as important. As long as enemies in combat is shocked, Equiper's attack increases by 28%. Not as important in my opinion out of all of them. So I would actually focus on the Anomaly Mastery one, on the Anomaly Proficiency, which is Freedom Blues. Now next up, let's talk about the different slots and what main stat will I be focusing on for her. So first things first, in position number 6, I would go definitely for Anomaly Mastery majority of the time, like 90% of the time. If you find that you want more of her skill, you want to use more of her bombs to proc the anomaly build up in the first place to trigger more anomaly so that you can get even more on bombs that she tosses, you maybe want to quick swap a bit more. Though that 20% of the time, I think energy regeneration is quite good. Otherwise, I would say 80% of the time, Anomaly Mastery is the set that you're going for. If you can't find a better one, Energy Regen is a pretty decent alternative still. Next up is the 5th slot here for your drive disc, and this one is quite straightforward. I think that electric damage bonus is likely going to outperform on her, probably the best you can go for. If you can't find, you're in the early game, you can go for attack ratio, or you can also go for pen percentage. Also, that's also good. Pen ratio is also pretty decent to go for. For the last one, for 4, quite straightforward. This one is Anomaly Proficiency. If you can't find Anomaly Proficiency, you could make do with crit rate or attack ratio in the early game, but ultimately you want to move towards Anomaly Proficiency for Grace as well. So that is for the drive disc, which is probably quite confusing for a lot of people. Now let's talk about the next one, which is another confusing thing, and that is definitely the gadget store here, which is the W engines. What W engine exactly is good for her and you want to build together for Grace as well. Now we're going to data bank here, and let me just search all the anomaly ones, and I will even consider the B rank ones since she's a relatively supportive character for any of you who are thinking about getting something. Currently we only have one S rank. We'll talk about the S rank later. I am personally liking Rainforest Gourmet. Is a free one. How do I determine free? Is you can go into the buy here and craft it. That is, in my opinion, like a free to play gear already. You can get these nodes here, these tokens, to craft them from either the Shiyu Defense hardest game mode. You can check out the video that we have on the channel on the hardest game mode, the red game mode for Shiyu Defense Critical as well. If you're interested to know what rewards you get from that game mode, what other rewards, you also can get it from your weekly bosses, so you can eventually craft it. Anomaly Proficiency, what I'll look for, obviously this is really good. Energy regeneration is decent as well for some of the advanced stats that I'm looking for. For every 10 energy consumed, when you use basically when you use your skill, the equiper gains an attack buff for 10 seconds. This buff doesn't really matter too much for Grace, since after you throw the bombs, you're switching out of her most likely, and she probably won't take the field 10 times later. So Rainforest Gourmet is mainly used for this advanced stat here, and it's free, so that's why I think it's pretty strong. Other options you have, Roaring Ride. I don't really like the advanced stat too much, but when you trigger your EX special attack, which is your skill, the one that she tosses the bombs, you can trigger one of 3 random effects for 5 seconds. And first one is the 8% Equiper's attack. Second one is increases Equiper's Anomaly Proficiency by 40, increases the Equiper's Anomaly, why did it automatically switch back? Increases the Anomaly build up by 25%. Now, I think this is not as significant since after you throw the bombs, you likely will switch out. But it's not set here whether the thing is landing on the enemy. So I don't know whether it triggers on the first bomb instance because she throws many bombs, whether the subsequent bombs get this proc. That is still not clear. But overall, the advanced stat here is not very likable already. Weeping Gemini, again, attack percentage, not very fantastic. Squad inflicts attribute anomaly, which means you have to actually trigger the shock. The equiper gains a buff of anomaly proficiency. Weeping Gemini is basically great if you're trying to proc disorder in anomaly based comps. So if you are playing like Piper together with Grace, I think this one is worth considering, Weeping Gemini, because that's when you actually have an increase when someone else procs another gear. But then again, you only get attack percentage, which is not super ideal for if you're trying to proc disorder. You would much rather like something else in the subs. So This is the Battle Pass one, Electric Lip Gloss. This is the last of the A ranks. Then I'll talk about the B ranks and finally the S rank that we are considering. In fact, I think one B rank might be very interesting to use instead. So the Battle Pass one is quite good. It gives you Anomaly Proficiency, which is exactly what you're looking for. Same reason why you are using the free-to-play one, Rainforest Gourmet. But on top of that, this gives you, when enemies inflicted with Attribute Anomaly, Equippers attack increases by 10% and they deal additional 15% more damage to the target. This one doesn't have a cooldown. As long as the shock is still on the enemy, you get this buff, which I think is a lot better, especially since that you will likely chain attack into the enemy here and there, so a bit more damage will be done. This is decent, in my opinion. So the one that I actually like a lot for the B rank is actually this one here, which is Magnetic Storm Bravo, which gives you slightly less Anomaly Proficiency, but you can get this at rank 5, which is really, really nice. So I think I have one at rank 5 here. Let me just look at the stats for a rank 5 one. So over here at rank 5, you actually get increased Anomaly Proficiency by 40 for 10 seconds when you are accumulating Anomaly build-up. So this is very, very good because she builds it up very quickly. You sacrifice a bit of basic attack, but you do get a lot of your Anomaly Proficiency in the subs here, the advanced stats, as well as the high voltage surge that you get. So any of you who are playing Grace and you are considering or focusing her purely on Anomaly and building up that shock, you should consider definitely getting this subs as well. I think it's very, very interesting since you can get it at in position 5 or 5 copies of it as well. Last but not least, of course, let's talk about the S rank one, which is, as of time of recording, just one Fusion Compiler. Let me just give you a summary. I like this a lot for the high base attack. Pen ratio means she does more damage in the instances that she hits. So it's focusing on more of like a sub DPS quick swap Grace rather than solely focusing on Anomaly. That's the difference. Grace does damage both ways, like not only the instances of damage but also Anomaly base. So this one increases attack percentage, high base attack already, so it scales even better. You get pen ratio to do a lot more damage there. When you're using a special, EX special, which is the skill, the Equipper's Anomaly Proficiency is increased by a little bit, 25 for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. And each stack is also, of course, independent. And I think what is interesting about this one is definitely a very, very huge DPS for Grace. The DPS increase in terms of the instances of damage, less so focusing on the Anomaly aspect of her, but for majority of people in the game, I think that it's very, very worth considering Magnetic Storm Bravo for the reasons that we talked about already. But now, enough about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the next section, which is Grace's abilities and priority of what to build. So in terms of priority, I would say that Core Enhancement is the main important one that you want to get up, because it gives you Anomaly Mastery, plus it also gives you a bump in the Electric Anomaly build-up rate that you get, which is exactly probably why you're playing Grace, to trigger that shock faster. So as you go up, you get some base attack on the B, D, and F nodes, but on the A, C, and E, you get a lot more Anomaly Mastery to help bump up that base Anomaly Mastery that she has. In terms of skills, where do you want to allocate this? I will put mostly in special attack. This is probably one of the biggest requirement. Assist is decent as well as basic attack and dodge. You can put in the least amount. She's not going to be on the field a lot. She's not going to do a lot of damage as well, since most of her procs will probably be hybrid physical and electric from basic, as well as the dash attacks. If you are using her dash attack, unless you're like quick dodging everything, that is all electric. So I don't think these two are super high priority. Focus on these two, which is your assist as well as special attack. Chain attack, if you hardly use her to out, you don't need that AoE that she provides in terms of her ultimate ability. You probably are fine with just leaving this one out as well if you're lacking of resources too. My Grace build, for any of you who are wondering, I am running a 4-piece crit and a 2-piece Anomaly Proficiency here, because I just simply don't have good gear. I am focusing just more on the main stat here. In the early game, Anomaly Mastery as well as Anomaly Proficiency, and I don't have good other gear in these 2 other slots right now open to actually like swap over. So I'll be like still 3 slots for Anomaly Proficiency. That's why I have this currently here. I'm focusing mostly on my main stats in the early game. But as mentioned in the gear section, we already talked about what you should focus on. And yeah, if you're looking for team comps for Grace, I think one of the best combos for this character in the offensive slot is Anton, and in the stun slot is Ambi Demara. I played with this team extensively in the closed beta 3 and found it very, very useful all the way to endgame content. But anyways, if you want to know more team composition composition of Grace, maybe you have different combination of characters, you have other 5-star characters, check out the video that we have on Grace right here. I'll link in the end screen. And guys, thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.